this as a warning sign and they harden their defenses because they will probably now have a target on their back. And I'm really hoping. Today we're facing an unprecedented array of data breaches, hacking attempts, and surges in digital crime. Why is there such a widespread amount, and how little is noticed in our everyday lives? Malware, dark sites, brute forcing, zero-day script kiddies, and nation-state hackers are all on the rise. Learn more about the threats we face and gain a bit more knowledge than yesterday. Hey everyone, another episode of Exploit Brokers is coming to you now. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Exploit Brokers. I'm Laudo, I'll be your host. We have a lot to talk about, so let's dive into it. So some of you are aware of the recent MGM hacks. Now I'm recording this on Friday, September the 22nd, sometime at night. So by the time this airs the following Thursday, some of the details may be further advanced. But I'm going to talk about what I know right now, my opinions, and a couple of different articles that I found that I think will shed some interesting light on the topic. So let's keep going further. The first article that I actually want to touch on is going to be from Dark Reading, aptly named MGM Caesars Cyber Attack Responses Required Brutal Choices. Now, MGM has made the news, and a lot of you may know MGM as a hotel that was attacked, or the hotel chains that were attacked. But apparently, Caesar hotels were also attacked. The difference is that Caesars paid the actual ransom to the ransomware group or to the hackers, while MGM opted to not pay and try to recover it. There is pros and cons to both, but we'll touch on that in a few. I want to read the subtitle of the article, which is "Tens of Millions in Losses Later, the MGM and Caesar systems are back online following dual cyber attacks by the same threat actor. Here's what experts say about their incident responses." And I don't want to downplay this. This was a massive attack on major hotel chains that have millions of dollars worth of loss, and my understanding is they took a lot of data, or it affected a lot of data is probably a better way to aptly say it. Who were the group, or who is the group that actually committed the attack? It is a group known as Scattered Spider, or the Alpha V cyber attack. The Caesars group actually negotiated with them. I'll read from the article. In this instance, both were victims of a Scattered Spider Alpha V cyber attack. Caesars quickly negotiated with the cyber attackers and handed over a $15 million ransom payout, which allowed it to proceed with business in relatively short order. MGM, meanwhile, flatly refused to pay and just announced that its operations have been recovered after 10 days of casino and hotel operation downtime, tens of millions of dollars in lost revenue later. So why is this? The ransomware attacks seem to take down major of their systems. It took down the ability for guests to check in. It took down the ability for slot machines to work. It just took down tons of things, and it's just a really massive hack. The interesting part about this is that the article goes into, was MGM right or was Caesars right? And the article states, and I agree, it's complicated. Whenever you pay a ransom, there's two things that happen. Well, there's more like three. One is that you pay and you get your data decrypted. That's the best case scenario, but you're losing money. The other option is you pay and you get nothing. You get stiffed, and a lot of these are crypto transactions, so the money gets sent to a wallet and that's it. You have no recourse, there's no chargeback, that's it, the money's gone. And the third is you don't pay and you deal with the ramifications. Let's go down those three and understand a bit of the pros and cons. So the pro, if you pay and get decrypted, well, you lost money, but pro, you get to come back online and you get to go upon business as usual. The bad news is that you paid, which essentially means you're going to have a huge target on your back, where other hackers who do similar things know that you're willing to pay money to get your data back as long as the payment isn't too painful. Which in this case, somewhere in one of these articles I read that the money paid was only like 0.1% by Caesars. So that's the pro and the con. There's more, but that's the simple high-level overview. The second choice, you pay and you don't get decrypted. Well, there's nothing but cons here. At this point, you've lost money and you didn't get your data decrypted, and it's a risk you take by paying them. Third, you don't pay and you try to recover and deal with the consequences. This is what MGM did. MGM opted to not pay the ransomware group, and they are currently dealing with the fallout. They're trying to recover their systems. It's gone so far as there was a job posting that offered somewhere about $100, $110 an hour but you had to work about 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this was for a Red Hat Linux admin, I believe, that would essentially redo their entire IT infrastructure. That's a lot of hours. You're talking 70 hours a week, 10 times 7, right? Until the system's back online. And redoing an entire IT infrastructure is not trivial. It's not a week worth of work. It's definitely going to be longer. Whoever takes this on, if someone takes it on, is going to be a pretty nice payday, but honestly, to redo an entire IT network of that size, it's probably going to be more than $110 an hour, if I'm being honest. But to each their own. The details that I was talking about, the 0.1%. So Caesars payout works out to be around 0.1% hit on their year prior revenue, and that probably wouldn't even make their earnings call if it was another type of cost amortized over the period, Barrett says. Part of what this is pointing out is what they paid, the $15 million extortion payment to the ransomware group, is essentially a tiny amount. It's the cost of doing business, if you will. But that's a really bad way to look at it, because again, the con is that when you pay, you're going to put a huge target on your back. The opposite side, MGM allegedly recovered in 10 days. This is pretty well, considering that some companies that get hit by ransomware take a lot longer to actually be able to recover. There is a bit of concern. There's another article that I'll get to momentarily that starts talking about the employees, how although they're saying that they've recovered, there's still some concerns because things just aren't looking normal as they should. Let's actually jump into the next article that also talks about this. So, scattered spider behind MGM cyber attack targets casinos. The ransomware group is a collection of young adults who also recently breached Caesars Entertainment and made a ransom score in the tens of millions. Scattered Spider, aka Roasted Octopus UNC3944, leverages a combination of credential phishing and social engineering to capture one-time password codes, OTP codes, or it overwhelms targets using multi-factor authentication notification fatigue tactics. According to a CrowdStrike report on the cyber group from January, having obtained access, the adversary avoids using unique malware, instead favoring a wide range of legitimate remote management tools to maintain persistent access. Let's talk about what that means. Instead of them spending money to develop unique malware, custom code, they're using legitimate remote access tools. They're using tools that normal admins would actually remote into machines to either run updates or administrative tasks. This is kind of an interesting thing. I don't always see a lot of criminals using off-the-shelf access. It's used, don't get me wrong. It's just a lot of very well-versed developers and hackers tend to kind of roll their own. There's a pro and a con of both. I'm interested in going a bit more into what Scattered Spider is. There was actually a linked blog post to bushidotoken.net, and it appears to be a security researcher's personal blog, and it's really cool. He breaks it down, and I want to read a bit into this so we can discuss. So CrowdStrike introduced Scattered Spider in December 2022 and shared an update in January 23. These financially motivated English-speaking threat actors are known for their unique style of attacks, which usually all begin the same way, either via an SMS phishing message to harvest credentials, or via an old-school, yet still very effective, social engineering phishing call to get credentials, or to get the target to download malicious software and provide access. Other tricks Scattered Spider is known for includes multi-factor authentication fatigue attacks, which involve spamming the authentication request notification to the target's device until they accept either by accident or out of annoyance, as well as SIM swapping, which includes tricking the mobile carrier of the target to provide SIM card access to the threat actor. So let's kind of touch on that. The blog did a very good job and kind of recorded some of the threat actors. In this case, they're going by a few different monikers, but essentially this advanced persistent threat actor, an APT like Octopus, is more on the social engineering side of attacks. Instead of trying to do a 0-day, instead of trying to do worms or something more technical, they're going after the users themselves. There's a very well-known idea in the cybersecurity world where the human aspect is generally the weakest link in the security. You can have the best policies, the best antivirus scanner, you can have everything. But if you have someone just randomly click a link and download a virus, well, there's very little you can do about that. Yes, you can put scanners on emails and other stuff, but there'll always be a way to bypass that. And if you can get someone to click, well, you can get them to run. And once they're in the network, they can pivot, go to the next thing. It's easy to kind of go about once you're in the initial network. There's lateral movements, privilege escalation, and things like that. The part that caught my attention that I find kind of funny is they're using just straight phishing attacks, or they're using calls to get credentials to get you to download the software. The other one is SIM swapping, which, to give a bit more context on that, right? Every single device you have has a SIM card. That SIM card tells your telephone provider, hey, it's me, let me onto the network, here's a phone number and details of your account and details about you, so that way the provider can route your stuff and get access to you and give access to your phone to the network. Well, a SIM swapping attack is when an attacker calls the phone provider, let's say one of the big telecoms, and they're pretty much saying, hey, I'm this person and I can answer questions about them. You know, maybe they've looked at your social media, they've done some intelligence work on your background, and they have enough information about you that they can guess a lot of the answers. Well, once they can guess the answers, they can easily trick a customer service agent to give them access, send them a different SIM card or something like that. And then once they have the different SIM card, if they're able to get to the point where they can reset your account password with your phone number, or they already know the password, they just needed the two-factor, they can get in, right? Two-factor, generally when you activate it, you either use an authenticator on your device, but a lot of them will have a backup with a phone number. So that's part of the way Scattered Spider appears to be attacking and getting in. So once they were actually in there, they, again, following what they appear to be doing, they're not rolling their own stuff. They're actually an affiliate for a malware, a ransomware called Black Cat or Alpha V, which they're pretty much, their main business in this is actually getting in, getting the infections, getting the money. They don't appear to want to roll their own anything. They're not developing anything here. Maybe some custom tools for the phishing, but even then there's a lot of gray hat, black hat, white hat tools for phishing attacks and for social engineering in general. There's I believe one called the Social Engineering Toolkit that's pretty popular on Kali Linux distributions and stuff like that. Yet they're just flat out going after targets, not trying to roll their own code. It's actually a very interesting idea. They're much more criminals than they are hackers, but they're using a lot of hacking management or hacking tools to pretty much aid them. I mean, the whole attack was a ransomware attack. That in itself is generally thought to be a cyber attack. Now, although I've talked about some of the MGM side, there was an interesting and related article by cybernews.com titled MGM says it's recovered from cyber attack, employees tell different story. This article is showing how, although MGM is saying that they've recovered, there's a bit of discrepancy and even a bit of concern. The blog actually references a tweet by a Jacob Orth, or at Jacob's Vegas Life, and it says the situation for MGM employees is worse than most of us realize. And there's a snapshot of what appears to be a text message. It's not just our work schedule, it's anything to do with being an employee with MGM. No schedule, no vacation PTO hours. All info pertaining to my 401, time card, and Tokes made attendance points. They hacked into our entire employment info, my social, my husband and kids' socials, all my bank info. We've gotten zero answers about anything. You can repost but keep my name out of it. They are also more worried about slots and ATMs working. So that's interesting, and it makes sense from a business perspective. Of course, you're going to want to make sure that your main revenue source is coming in. I get that, but I mean, you just got hacked. A bunch of your employees' information may have gotten stolen or lost. Not only that, but I can't imagine the HR nightmare that they're going to have to do to rebuild all the employee information across all of their resorts. That just sounds horrible. And not to mention the people who can't take PTO, they can't see their schedule. It sounds like complete and total mayhem. And I feel for those employees. I used to be at a point in my life previously where I had a job where you would go and sometimes the work would finish early, so you get to home early. You weren't always able to control your schedule. Here, they're not able to see their schedule. They're not able to take their PTO from what it seems like. If anyone has any more information on this, please leave a comment below. I'm interested to see what's going on. Now, back to what I said earlier. The article lists a post, again on Twitter, that says that the MGM Grand is looking to hire a Red Hat Linux system admin willing to work 10 hours per day 7 days a week to completely rebuild its IT environment from the ground up and get the slot machines working again. Back to the moneymaker. Whenever there's money involved, money is willing to get paid. And it seems like MGM really wants their stuff back online. The job posting is $110 an hour. Candidates must be willing to work every day until the new IT environment is fully stood up. We are open to people who will only work a grand total of 7 days. Higher pay for those willing to stick it out until the job is done. And it's $100 per hour in a 1099, and they want you on site because, of course, hey, no remote. They just got hacked. I don't even think they could do remote. Maybe not. This is kind of interesting. I know everything's interesting. This is interesting in the sense where they're willing to pay, but it's after the fact. There's a running joke where the security, the developers, there's only money that gets put into a part of an organization once that part's needed. If it's not needed, or if it's not thought to be needed, like IT or security or sometimes even developers, then they'll put the least amount of money possible to keep the lights going. And the moment there's any reason, then a lot of companies do. You get lucky sometimes, and you have some companies that really care. They really want everything running. They care about their security. They care about their employees. But you also have some that pretty much wait until it's too late, and then they're just trying to fix it after the fact. I'm not saying that's what MGM or Caesars is. That's just the fact that some companies and some organizations are like that. Going back, known ransomware gang Scattered Spider has laid claim to the attacks, which security insiders say were carried out using targeted but simple social engineering tactics. Going back to the previous articles, it appears that none of this was using 0 days or anything super like high tech. This was attacking the person, getting them to do something, and then running ransomware using plain off-the-shelf legitimate tools to manage and run the operation. Now, there was even this cool video on the cybernews.com where someone shares what it looks like on the casino floor. And the casino floor just looks, it looks like there's nothing but ghosts there. You have a couple people walking around, but it's essentially all the machines have a screen up, which I assume is maybe the ransomware screen. I can't get a really good look at it, but it's either the ransomware screen or some sort of message saying it's offline. You can't play the slot machines, you can't do anything, which kind of lends credibility to that job posting, right? You want to get your moneymakers back online as soon as possible. Let's talk about this more from a developer IT perspective. One of the biggest things and one of the biggest takeaways from this for anyone who has a small business, big business, whoever you are that's listening, you want to make sure you have backups, and you want to have offsite backups, and you want your backups to have backups. You want to be able to rebuild your entire infrastructure from the ground up, not if you get attacked, not if you get hacked, but when you get hacked. There is no such thing as hacker-proof. There's no such thing as a system that cannot get penetrated. There's no such thing as an app that cannot get hacked. Everything that is connected and online to the internet can get hacked. It is a matter of how difficult it is. It is a matter of how good of a target it is. There is no reason for a hacker to spend tons of time and money after a target that can't pay them and is hard to hack. And there's no reason for them to go after a target that is super easy to hack that they can't get money out of. Sometimes they will. There's some hackers who tend to do it for the quote-unquote glory or for the street cred, do it for the lols, right? Ultimately, it comes down to how hard are you to hack? How much can I gain from the hack? And is it worth it? It's a criminal business strategy. If you're worth it to hack, they'll hack you. Some people can get by, some companies can get by without having to worry about it, but even then, you put a vulnerable machine out on the internet and there's just some automated bots that do their thing. There is even this attack where if you leak AWS credentials or if you leak any kind of key to your AWS account, that hackers have automated scripts and bots that will go and scan GitHub repositories and different things. And the moment they find an AWS key, they'll just spin up a bunch of machines, start mining crypto. Even if you couldn't pay for it, they made the money anyway. So whether AWS decides to let it go or the person's in debt to AWS, it doesn't matter to them. They've made their money off you and off they go. They'll exploit any weakness. Again, it was super easy to hack and they were able to make money, even if it's not directly by taking money from you like a ransomware. So guys, I'm really hoping MGM goes well. For Caesars, they paid, they went on with their life. And I'm really hoping they take this as a warning sign and they harden their defenses, because they will probably now have a target on their back. And I'm really hoping they find a way to strengthen their defenses so they don't have to go through this again, so they don't have to pay, so that way their employees don't have to be worried about losing their data or anything like that. It's always a bad situation whenever anyone gets hacked, but I mean, it is part of this world we live in. You have to put your defenses up and fight the good fight, but hackers will always go. It's a cat and mouse. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Always have a backup plan and always be able to restore. Now, MGM Resorts, another thing that was noted, once they did say that they were actually up, and I quote, "The MGM Rewards app, all MGM brand websites, ATMs, credit card machines, slot machines, check-in system, and digital guest room keys were completely inoperable for most of last week, expected to cost the company unprecedented financial losses." There was even sayings that although they were getting them online, some people were still handing out physical keys, and the physical keys were needed. I believe, if I can find it, I'll post it up. There was guests who complained about a room key free-for-all, which was there was keys that were unlocking multiple rooms, the elevators, and this allowed guests on every floor in the hotel, which created a security nightmare in itself. And they were dealing with a security nightmare after dealing with a security nightmare. I'm hoping they go well. I'm hoping things go well for them. I'm hoping they can recover. But this is a very big wake-up call to not only MGM and Caesars, but to all the companies out there. Doesn't matter how big, how small, you can get hacked. Guys, this has been an interesting episode. I wanted to bring this to you. Again, this was recorded Friday night on the 22nd of September. There will be more data coming out, and I will try to make updates if I can. As always, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.